So I say, if you look at nothing else, just understand how to find what are their assumptions on rent and expense growth and what's their exit cap rate assumption. Because any deal in the world can look like a golden goose if you fluff those numbers.
And typically, when people are looking at acquisitions, they're also looking at exit strategies at the same time. So you get to see, when they're doing acquisitions, you get to see how they're underwriting the exit, potential exit, or hold periods, or what the values are, and reasoning behind that. So you get the full scope. And arguably, obviously, acquisition is very important in the underwriting of the numbers and purchase prices and construction costs and everything. But the operational, I think that's where a lot of people get thrown off of, like, the operational expenses and what that actually looks like on a per unit basis, or with the credits and everything. I mean, that can get really complicated.
Yeah, and the bulk of what I do is deal underwriting and financial analysis. And I talk to friends and family, like, hey, I'm thinking of investing in this deal as an LP. Do you mind taking a look at the pro forma? I would always tell people there are two huge red flags, I guess 2.5 red flags in a pro forma from somebody trying to syndicate capital. One is overly ambitious rent escalations. So somebody saying, yeah, we're going to escalate at 10% a year. It's going to look, any pro forma look good. Similarly, if you see operating expenses modeled to grow at a lower rate than rent, that's another kind of red flag. So that's that half of one.
Right.
And then the other one is exit cap rates. So if people say, yeah, this is going to be a 3% exit cap rate, of course the deal is going to look phenomenal.
Right.
So I say, if you look at nothing else, just understand how to find what are their assumptions on rent and expense growth and what's their exit cap rate assumption. Because any deal in the world can look like a golden goose if you fluff those numbers.
Right. Would you typically advise, in today's world, like, stick to a 3% income and expense, over the years, and then how would you, I guess you would value the exit cap rate based on the forced appreciation that happens to the asset? Like, if you buy it at a 10 and 8 or a 10 cap because it's distressed and needs all this work, or it's not even developed yet, then you assume you would exit at a cap rate of today's current value. So, like, that asset would generally trade at a 6 cap, then you would assume a 6 cap at exit?
So two parts to that. One, the data exists. So companies like CoStar have that cap rate data, and that's something that's always tough for people jumping from residential to commercial, is there aren't comps in the commercial world. But a cap rate effectively is a comp, where it might be a 10-unit apartment building versus a 30-unit one, but if they're similar locations, similar age, similar tenant profile, they should have comparable cap rates. So those cap rates exist, not speculatively, but what CoStar says they are. So if you're also looking at a 10-year project, none of us know what it's going to look like.
Right.
So the CPA in me takes an overly cautious approach to underwriting a deal, where I am always going to assume and model a higher cap rate, so a lower exit value. And then the way to look at it is, if I have investors banking on the worst case scenario, anything above that's gravy. But I don't want to be in a position where I have to tell an investor, hey, sorry, I got a little aggressive with this modeling, and you're actually taking a fraction of the exit proceeds that I modeled. So that's what I'll tell anyone willing to listen. And it's partially the conservatism of being a CPA, but under promise and over deliver.